Warning: All Things Crime is a true crime production that may contain violent or disturbing material. Viewer or listener discretion is advised. Hey guys, part 3 of my discussion with Sergeant Betsy Brantner-Smith. And I love this one because it's got Fifi in it. Enjoy!
The problem is when these business owners leave these communities, then we're left with, you'll hear a lot when we talk about poor communities that there are retail deserts and food deserts and things. That's because these business owners, if you can't make a profit, and then, like you said, small business, their margin is already slim to begin with. If they can't protect their businesses and the police can't help them protect their businesses, why would they stay in these areas where, crime is almost encouraged? So yeah, they end up leaving. I just read something yesterday. There were 2 studies that came out in a post George Floyd riot era. There's a lot of people say, well, the insurance will, we burned down a Wendy's in Atlanta, but insurance will build it back up. Yeah, they'll build it back one time, but then, insurance companies aren't forced to insure you. So there's all these small business owners who now can't get insurance. And now because they can't get insurance, whatever happens to them happens, and they can't make any money. So they leave, like you said, and they go somewhere where the police are allowed to do their job. The insurance companies will insure them. And frankly, the community appreciates them.
And when they do leave, they take jobs with them. They take revenues with them. They take good people with them. I mean, there's only so many people that have the willingness really to be a business owner. Entrepreneurship is kind of a rare thing. And trust me, there is risk and there is stress and there is
Yep, it's not for the faint of heart. I know for a fact.
No, I'll tell you, there's been more than one night where my wife has woke me up because I'm grinding my teeth. And she's like, what are you doing? I'm like, I don't know. Obviously, I'm thinking about something at work.
Yeah.
So, we've all had to adjust to this new COVID environment. And yeah, it's crazy. Back to the business owner that is there. And again, if they have a brick and mortar type of a business where they have to operate from a certain location, and it doesn't matter if they've been there for decades, at some junction, they have to, when you can't pay your bills, it's done. You're done.
Yeah.
And eventually they either have to just close up shop or they're going to move. They're going to go somewhere where they can conduct business safely. Mm-hmm. And the only way that will ever happen is if there's a police presence. Again, back to that person that said, well, I don't need the police running around. Yes, you do. You may be able to personally protect your own home because if you're enabled to be armed, you don't have one of these city ordinances that, like Chicago. I don't know how anybody lives in Chicago. You can't defend yourself. That's crazy.
Right. Yeah, my youngest kid lives there, and the gun laws are very frustrating. But the thing is, even for somebody like you said, who says, well, I can protect my own home, you're still subject to the law. And if you end up shooting an intruder or somebody you perceive to be an intruder, you still have to go through a police investigation. You're still subject to prosecution. So it's not as cut and dried. It's not, it's like you said, it's not the wild, wild west. It's not as cut and dried as it would seem. And that can be very costly. You'll have to hire an attorney, et cetera, et cetera. The police are that's our job. We an American law enforcement appreciates the Second Amendment. We appreciate people who are able to take care of themselves, but we all still have to follow the laws of the Constitution and local, state, and federal law as well. So you don't want to just be this lone wolf out there saying, well, I'll just protect me and mine. You have to involve the government, and the government is law enforcement a lot of times.
Yeah. And why would you want that anyway?
Yeah.
It's my point to that friend was that, yes, you may be able to protect your own home, but when you go to get in your car and you drop your kid off at school, you want that school to be safe. You want the streets to be safe. There's a reason that carjackings are up so much in Minneapolis.
Yeah.
It's because everybody around there knows that the law enforcement's not around. And even if they do get caught, there's not going to be any penalty for it. So, you know what? Let's go steal a car. Maybe we can, go hawk it and get it chopped up and make a little payday. But 400%, that's an insane number.
Well, it is, and that's because, again, the criminals know that in Minneapolis they're shorthanded, things like that. I think when too, you talked about with kids, you take your kid to school. There's a lot of areas where kids are not yet in school, but they will be soon. So we haven't really heard about school shootings, and actually until this week, there was a fatal shooting in a junior high. The school resource officer wasn't there. A lot of the defund the police, a lot of their movement says get police out of schools. The Los Angeles Unified School District just voted to remove school resource officers from the schools and put them out in patrol vehicles near the schools. So what happens when we have our first school shooting and there's no school resource officer there? There's no security. How are we going to handle that? What is America going to say? Because everybody remembers the Parkland school shooting in Florida, where everybody was enraged because the school resource officer did not respond appropriately. Well, now we're just told we're going to get kids out of school. And, we're going to get police officers out of the schools. They're just moving so backward when it comes to protecting our communities, protecting our kids. And again, it's all based on a false narrative. Police officers are not gunning down innocent people in this country. It's a lie, but nobody wants to talk about the truth because it's not politically correct. It's uncomfortable to talk about the truth, which in and of itself is just unbelievably silly.
Every big movement needs a scapegoat and they need a target. And unfortunately, right now, it's the police. And I think there's multiple reasons for that. And all of them are sinister. And I am scared for the day that if this continues the way it is, then a lot of people in the United States will have no choice but to replace the police with themselves. And that's when it's going to get really ugly, and it's going to be a sad day. But hopefully that day never comes, and hopefully we can come back to common sense policies and allowing the police to actually do their job, because again, they will police their own. And when the bad police, the people that aren't there to actually serve the community and be there for the right reasons, eventually they'll find them out and they'll get rid of them. But until that day, it's just one of those that we're just going to have to weather this storm, and hopefully we can all come out on top.
Well, and that's what we're trying to do here at the National Police Association, is we're trying to give people an outlet to be able to support the police. A lot of people don't know what to do to support their local law enforcement. So that's what we're trying to do, is to show people ways that they can support their local law enforcement, because it doesn't just benefit law enforcement, it ultimately benefits the community.
So what would you recommend?
Well, so here's what I would tell people. First and foremost, when you see a police officer, smile and wave at them. And cops love things like when somebody, their kids, I know this happens a lot in our local police department here. Kids will draw pictures or write thank you letters and stuff, and people will drop it off at the station. There's a lot of areas where you can go to a back the blue situation. And then I would ask people to go to our website, nationalpolice.org, and look at our public service announcements. If you see a cop in trouble, you see a cop getting beat up and there's no other cops around, ask that cop, hey, do you need some help? A lot of people just pull out their cell phone and record it. A lot of times police officers need some help. So see if you can help. And I would also ask you, follow us on Facebook and on Twitter, and get involved in supporting your local police, because all the polling tells us, there are Gallup polls, Rasmussen polls, most people appreciate the police. most people don't want us defunded. In fact, they want more police. And especially in poor communities and communities of color, when polled, African Americans are the number one group of people who say, I don't want less police in my neighborhood. I want more police. So find out what you can do, and the National Police Association can help you do that.
Oh, that's awesome. You know, Cheryl McCollum, I don't know if you know her. She's awesome out of Atlanta. We were having a conversation one time, and we came up with hashtag Posipole, and it stands for Positive Police Pictures.
I love it.
And we shorten it, you know, kind of like Interpol, kind of a play on that. But hashtag Posipole. In fact, I've already seen a few pictures of it that, you know, just if you see a policeman, you know, at a grocery store or something, stop, take a picture with them, you know, do a selfie. Everybody's consumed with selfies anyway. Take a selfie with a cop and then post it with hashtag Posipole. And imagine if just the 700,000 police officers and law enforcement around the country took one picture even a week and posted it somewhere on social media with a hashtag Posipole. The social media would be flooded with amazing pictures.
Fantastic idea. That is a fantastic idea.
All the pictures of police where they're helping somebody change a tire, or, you know, getting a cat out of a tree, you know, all the things that are kind of, you know, back in the 50s when you actually saw that happen, you know, just things that, but they're doing things all the time. You always hear of officers, and it's usually hear of a week or two later when somebody gets busted for shoplifting, and instead of taking them downtown, the cop pays for their groceries.
Yep.
Those kind of things happen all the time. You know, the very nature of police officers, I found, and they're just like military. None of us really want the spotlight on us. None of us really want to be thrown up and put on a pedestal and said, oh, you know, given all sorts of accolades. That's not why we do the job. But if nobody else will toot your horn, you need to do it. And
exactly,
the police officers that are out there are doing great things every day. Take your cell phone out and take a picture, for crying out loud. You know, stand up for yourselves and start that hashtag Posipole. I think if that trended and if that really started going global, and if people were to see more of what police actually do, because everything, I can't say everything, but 99.9% of everything that police do is behind the scenes. You never know.
Yep.
And so get it out there. We've got, somehow we have to counter the narrative that the police are systemically racist and they need to be defunded and we don't need police anymore. That's just garbage. And it frankly, it needs to be countered. And the only way to do it is if good people, including the police, stand up for themselves and start getting the better news out there. Because right now it's kind of like, I don't want to use an analogy that's over dramatic or anything, but you know, the number one problem we found that prior to 9/11, we did not recognize that we were at war. Right. They were at war with us, but we didn't recognize that we should have been at war and we should have been much more ready. Well, the police need to understand, and I'm sure the police as a whole, individually, they understand that the war, they are at war. And whether or not they're fighting back or not is, you know, that remains to be seen. But especially, you know, folks like you that are up there with the National Police Association, you have a strong voice. You can get out there and say, hey, it's time for us to stand up for ourselves because you guys are being unjustly vilified and it's wrong. And you need to understand that the vast majority of people out here in the community support you, but at the same time, we want you to stand up for yourselves. And an easy way to do it is to just start taking some pictures of the good things that you're doing.
I love it. I love it. That's a fantastic idea because we really, truly do need the community to do our job.
Yeah. So, hey, it's kind of a tradition with all things crime to, before I let you go, to kind of lighten things up a little bit, you got to tell us some kind of a fun, something that was just hysterical that happened to you in your entire career. So a story that you love to tell at Thanksgiving. So anything
Oh
that stands out, that
boy.
something that happened that you'd love to share with the audience.
Oh boy, you're gonna have to edit this because I got to think about that. Um,
Sorry, I
I
should have.
had
I should
100
have.
hysterical things, but I'll tell you, not all of them are, not most of them are not funny for the public. Okay, I got one. Go. Okay,
Okay,
ready?
here we go.
So here's your edit. So when I was a young police officer, I went to a burglary of a home, and it was a rather wealthy couple, and sadly they had been burglarized. So we went in and we did our thing, and forensics came and all of that. And the sweet lady who owned the home brought me her little, like $5,000 Bichon little dog that had just gotten back from the groomer. That dog was better coiffed than I was, and she handed me little Fifi and said, I think I can trust you because I know that she's going to need to be fingerprinted and you're going to need her DNA and things to eliminate her, because I'm sure that the bad guys petted her when they came in and burglarized her house. So, officer, I'm going to hand her to you to do all the fingerprinting and the analysis. And so I was like, oh boy. And she was just so sincere. So I took little Fifi and her little bow-haired haircut, and I took her out to the forensics guys. And I'm like, throw a little fingerprint dust on this little white dog, because I got to convince this lady that this dog has been fingerprinted and cleared. And so we did that. And she was so happy that her dog was part of the investigation.
Oh my gosh. All right. I've heard some great stories. That is hysterical. That is so funny. I
Yeah, it was one of
Go
those.
out and make sure there's no fingerprints on Fifi, because we know she got petted, and we know that on that dog fur we can get a good fingerprint and probably collect some DNA. Yeah, that's
And I'll
awesome.
tell you, I bet that poor dog had that fingerprint ink on it for weeks, because they did, the forensic guys, they threw a lot of fingerprint dust around on that dog.
Oh, that stuff's nasty. I can't believe that they would want their dog to have fingerprint powder all over him. But I'll bet that lady took Fifi to every single neighbor in the entire neighborhood and was showing her off. Say, yeah, Fifi. They got some fingerprints of
Undoubtedly.
the people that broke into my home. They got fingerprints off of Fifi. Oh, that's absolutely
Undoubtedly.
awesome.
And that's the thing about law enforcement. We have, even though it can be a terribly tragic profession, gosh, we have a lot of fun. As your guests all, I'm sure, tell you, we all have lots of funny stories, and it's just, we do have a lot of fun in police work, just like you did in the military.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you, I'm going to actually put together a show that just highlights all of the funny stories that I'm getting, because some of them are just hysterical. A lady that was attacked, and the guy on the way out the door steals her vacuum cleaner. A lady that was a patrol officer, and she got called to come get the Sasquatch out of the backyard that was dancing around a fire. The stories just go on, and I just love it. That's one of my favorite parts of these interviews, is just hearing some of these funny stories. But yeah, fingerprint powder on Fifi. That'll definitely make the highlight reel.
I love it.
Okay, well, Betsy, I can't tell you how much I appreciate you coming on the show and sharing some of your thoughts. And I just hope that we can do this again, and it'll be nothing but fun and awesome stuff. And we won't have to talk about, the George Floyd case.
Absolutely. I look forward to that. And hopefully it's coming soon.
Yes, ma'am. Okay. Thank you so much. You have a great week, and make sure to tell everybody at the National Police Association hi for us.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
My pleasure. Okay, we'll talk to you later.